Welcome back to another episode of Red Titan. In today's episode, the user asked the question, Redditors who clean up crime scenes, what's the most bizarre thing you've witnessed? And here are all the crazy answers. I'm a fire investigator. My worst one was a lady who committed suicide by immolation in her basement. When I got to the scene, the body had already been removed, but there was a clear pattern on the floor where she had died. An empty can of gasoline was nearby. Her glasses were gently placed on top of the water heater. On a table were several ritualistic books. Some passages were highlighted involving riddling yourself of darkness by performing the flame ritual and other culty stuff. So, to perform the act, she removed her glasses and placed them on the water heater. She doused herself in gasoline and lit herself on fire. You could see that she ran around the room, bumping into things and knocked things over before she finally falling down at the center of the room, meeting her fate. Mental illness is some serious Part 1. I've got a ton. I used to do CSI work and was an autopsy tech. So I would both go to the scene, investigate, bring the body back to the morgue, and help with the autopsy. Anyways, this person murdered their spouse and stuffed the body into a fridge and buried it in the woods. When you have a body exposed to the elements, you have a normal decomposition to look forward to, such as insects, bloating/gases, skin coming off, bones showing, etc. Once you've seen a few, then you know that this kind of decomp/state of body is normal and you know what to expect. There are varying levels of stuff you deal with, but it's all within an expected spectrum of the job. Hope that makes sense. However, in this case, this person was sealed in, so you didn't have any of that. They were essentially stewing in there for almost a year. Might have been longer. I don't remember the exact time. I wasn't there on scene when they found the person, only in the morgue to help with the autopsy. So I prep the room, the doctor comes in, and I pull out the body from the fridge and wheel them into where we do the actual autopsy. Open the bag. Part 2. And oh my god, the smell! I'll never ever forget the smell. I dealt with bodies in various stages of death and decomposition, but holy shit, this was on 10 other levels. Now the morgue was HVAC, air filters/fresheners and all that, but they weren't effective at all for the smell. It was so bad I gagged, which I never done before, and almost threw up in my mask. The doctor was struggling too. The doc doubled backed and almost looked like they were gonna faint. It was the purest, worst, most concentrated, extremely pungent ammonia smell you could think of. I never smelled anything like that in my career at that point. If wine ages well and is better with time, this ammonia smell did the exact opposite, and it was somewhere worse than anything you could think of. The smell stuck to us too, on our skin for about a week, no matter how hard I scrubbed. I can still smell it if I think about it. The texture of the body didn't help either. It was so slippery and wet. That flecks of ammonia fluid splashed on my skin. The long gloves went up to my forearm, not all the way to my scrubs. It was the worst autopsy of my life. It took about 3 hours because we kept having to take breaks, and it was a difficult body to work on due to how fragile it was. It beat out everything else I saw, from crazy accidental facilities, the interesting suicides, to even the person who had half their face eaten by rats and half their body covered in a sea of maggots and insects. I don't clean them for a living, but I had to clean a few parts from my uncle managed an apartment complex. We had one tenant OD on heroin. He sat there for roughly 3 weeks before anyone noticed the smell. They took his body and left it to us to clean up. The dude vomited on the ceiling! There was little dry droplets of vomit all over the ceiling, right above where he died. And to top it off, he basically liquefied and left a puddle of gut juices on concrete foundation underneath the carpet. I thought that was left to a professional team, but I guess it's optional if you don't want to pay for it. You can scoop the brains and blood up yourself? My best friend used to have this job. Most of the bizarre stuff was cleaning up suicides. Found a guy full intact mustaches across the room when he blew his head off with a shotgun. One guy tried to kill himself by shooting his stomach with a small caliber pistol. He didn't die immediately, so he wrote tons of whacked out stuff on the walls with his blood, then finished the job. Oh, I have a story about someone who launched their entrails over a bathroom that S probably 81 square feet. I cleaned up a biohazard material, dead bodies, for my company on occasion because I'm one of the only two that's certified. My coworker went to a house to clean a body that the boss failed to mention they had been dead for 2 weeks. Okay, whatever, I can deal with that. We walked into the house and not only could you smell it from the start of the driveway, but all the windows were black. Okay, this dude had blacked out curtains. I understand that. We suited up and went to the house, which was relatively clean given the circumstances. We knew he had died in the bathroom, so we made our way upstairs and followed the files. So, you know how flies swarm decaying things? Yeah, it wasn't blacked out curtains in the bathroom. The windows were caked in with so many flies, the sunlight couldn't come in. My boss also failed to mention he died in the bathtub. You can hear about bloating and blah blah blah, but do you know what happens when a body sits in a bathtub for 2 weeks and soaks up all that water? It explodes. The entrails and remains of this soup was all over the taking, the walls, the door. It was everywhere. There was no water in the bathtub, just this sickly pink colored stew. That was the most disgusting cleanup I've done by far. I can't even imagine what it sounded like when that happened. Just trying to do my part to get actual crime cleaners here, but I'm a medic, so similar I guess. One time, we found this guy dead in his home in the corner of the living room, tucked around the couch. Ass up, no clothes on. Literal coffee ground looking shit spread everywhere across the house, on the floors, furniture, walls, everywhere. Along with mass amounts of liquor bottles and glass everywhere, he had massive GI issues, along with drinking himself to death. Don't know what was worse, the smell or the scene. Okay, not a crime scene cleaner, but am a medic. Have a few bizarre ones. Came into a home to find a man who had attempted to commit suicide by putting a pistol under his jaw, but failed / had a second thought. He ended up having to crawl 5 feet away to where he had thrown the pistol after only blowing the left side of his face off to finish the job. The second one did the trick. Just about every surface of the living room had some remnant of the poor guy. He left behind 2 kids. Another time we had a husband who had caught his wife cheating and had turned on the garage disposal and forced her arm down it. Massive hemorrhaging. But unfortunately she was DOA. Husband ended up with self-inflicted shotgun wound. PSA. People really don't understand just how messy a shotgun can make things. Think the Hulk smashing! A blood and brain-filled pinata. And this one was more weird than anything, but here goes. Older gentleman we were called to after police performed a wellness check, late 70s. Nice house, nice foreign car in the driveway, pictures of prayers and crosses all over the house. We head into the bedroom and there he is, naked except for what I assume was one of those sexy nun Halloween costumes. Honestly, I don't know, but he ended up having a heart attack mid-pleasure time while choking himself with a rosary. Definitely one of the weirdest things I ever saw during my time working the box. Was dispatched to a vehicle versus pedestrian call a couple months ago, and when we arrived on scene, it was like something out of a movie. Dude was running across a fairly busy 4-lane road and was hit by a car traveling about 55 miles per hour. After his head went through the windshield on the first vehicle, he then proceeded to be thrown into the opposite lane and was ran over and drugged about 20 yards by another vehicle. Once the coroner was on the scene with traffic investigations, we proceeded to pick up his organs bit by bit. It was a fantastic anatomy lesson. Crime scene cleaner here. My first suicide cleanup was quite an experience. Man shot himself in the head in his garage. I'll never forget needling to use pliers to pull teeth and skull fragments out of the drywall behind where he sat, or that blood and brain managed to make its way more than 50 feet across the garage. Most disturbing though was his pickup. We chose to take it to our company wash bay to pressure wash it and make sure it was clean as possible. I cleaned it myself and was satisfied that I had done well. Inspected for blood and couldn't find anything, so I began driving it back to the owner's garage. On the way back, a slight drizzle began and switched on the wiper blades. Imagine my horror as a chunk of brain streaks across my newly cleaned windshield. I pulled over quickly and cleaned it up, but it still makes me sick to think that would have happened if it didn't rain that day. This man's poor wife or daughter would have been met with that sight and been crushed again by the impact of suicide. That 10 years ago, and I'll never forget it. Now I triple or quadruple check every job. Hope you guys enjoyed that episode. If you did, please like the video, subscribe for more content coming soon, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.